everybody, what is up? My name is Mackenzie.
And I'm Jonathan.
We are husband and wife, and we'd like to welcome you to TerreDice.
And today we're going to talk about board game design.
Yeah, so you guys may or may not know, but we are the designers of Bark Avenue, which just finished up on Kickstarter. Yeah, and we were so excited to fund it, and I kind of wanted to come on here and start a once a month series where we talk about different design topics in our experience, because I learned so much from the board game community, and I feel like I want to be able to pass that on. We feel like pass that knowledge on.
Yes.
And share what we learned, so you don't have to make the same mistakes as us, or things that we found successful. Like, we want to be able to pass that on to you. So for our first video, we're going to talk about what you need to design a board game, or like what is important. So like, where do we start with this?
The very first thing that you need is your brain. Like literally your brain, a piece of paper, and a pencil. That's it. You get writing. I think that is the number one thing. You gotta either start with a theme or a mechanic, or wouldn't it be cool if there was a game where cards played this way, and you gotta start writing it down.
I would say, getting it down on paper, like paper and pencil, because you said brain, but like most people will just sit up, the idea will sit in their head until you put it down on a paper. You don't need a bunch of fancy stuff at the beginning. You don't, I sketched the original Bark Avenue on a little piece of paper in the backyard, and that's the original sketch. So you don't need a lot of things. And one thing I found really helpful is use things around your house. If you just want to start putting together a basic prototype, you don't need at the beginning to go out and buy a whole bunch of things. Like, we're going to talk about this board game design kit, which I absolutely love now.
Yes.
But you don't need that at the beginning.
No.
Use what you have. One thing I found really helpful, which Joe Slack's book, Board Game Design, I'll link it down below, said, use your games that you have, recycle pieces. And we did that a lot for Bark Avenue.
Yeah, get Pandemic out, steal all the cubes.
So I kept some of the examples from the original Bark Avenue. This is I don't even know what this is from, maybe Clue, but it's the original prototype for the poop. You can see the poop idea right there. But this is just a dice. I cut up mini pieces of paper to get it to the size we wanted. These are all just paper cards I made. And then we also were using these. I picked these up at a craft store. This is what I thought I was getting super fancy. They're like, this is like a little chihuahua. So that was me getting super fancy at the beginning.
Okay, now why is it so important that you start cheap, you start with what you have?
Yes.
So I think the first couple times that we played our game, the idea of Bark Avenue, I had this idea of how it was going to work, and I was like, oh, it's going to be great. You're going to use these tokens this way, and you're going to track this thing, and it'll be great. Once you get it down on paper and you start touching it, it doesn't always play out the way you think it was going to. It was terrible. It didn't flow at all. And so if you go and buy all the components for this dream game that you have in your head, guarantee you 80% of them are going to be wrong, or you're going to get too much of one thing, not enough of another. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, one of the original tests we did at Bark Avenue, I created it out of, the board was made out of Amazon boxes I cut up and taped together.
We had that board for a long time.
For a while. We tested on that for a while, because you want to feel like you can just play around with it, be able to rip up pieces, put them together, be able to draw all over the board. That's what you need at the beginning. You just need like a playground space. So we talked about what you do at the beginning with all your pieces of paper and your crayons and stuff like that. and also the original walk trackers, I used pennies. So the heads
works
and the
great
die.
for a double-sided
It worked really good.
Okay.
But let's say you've gotten that far. Where do I get some nice components, or at least semi-nice, to be able to start like playing this with people to take me seriously?
Okay. So the very next thing you're going to want to do, now hopefully if you're a game designer, you got a little bit of a creative side, I would highly recommend that you take a tool, either a free one or something like Photoshop or Illustrator, and you start designing some basic cards yourself. So, put the money in the top right, the points in the bottom left, whatever. Design some cards. Print those out on paper as a standard size. So your first one was written and it was cut out. Get those to be poker size, 63 by 88 millimeters, and put them in sleeves. Now this is really, really important that you do this, because you are going to have tons of typos, tons of rebalancing, blah, 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 blah. You don't want to go get cards printed right away, but you do want them to start feeling better. You want to be able to shuffle better. You want to be able to start playtesting with other people time and time again. So if you really want them to be super sturdy, you're either going to get sturdy sleeves or you're going to put just another card from a game in the back of it.
If you don't have an Adobe subscription, you can't just do this on Word. That's okay too. I am hoping to make some design videos about how to actually go about doing this, because that was a whole learning process for me in itself, is how to make those cards on Photoshop and InDesign, but more on that later. So let's say you're ready to go get a prototype made, like a legit one. Where should you go?
All right, okay, so your game's super balanced. I would recommend you take it to a prototype manufacturer. So this is not going to be your super amazing factories that you're going to print your thousands of copies in super high volume. There are some like boutique shops that will print low volume for you really well in your country probably. So in the US for us, that's the Game Crafter is like a premier one for that. I've also heard Print Play Games is great. We have not used them before. But essentially the Game Crafter's website, they've got a whole bunch of different custom components of different sizes. You go and you say, I want that poker deck 63 by 88. You upload all your card fronts and card backs, and they do a great job printing it. That's like full production quality. They also do boards. They do punch outs. They do all, they'll do the box.
They have everything. And like, so they're a really great one to go to if you want like a solid professional looking prototype. I cried the first time ours came in.
Yeah, it was cool.
But I would say, and I think you would agree with me, don't do this too early, which I think we made the mistake and did a little too early, and I think we wasted some money.
Yeah, so you'll save on the sleeves early on with the card trick. Cards, you can start to print your cards, so they're not super expensive, but the board, our full game board was $20 every time we got it done, and we had to rebalance that board a couple times, and the punch outs, so they have standard size circles and squares that are pretty cheap, but you can also do your own custom, and all those punch outs, we ended up, changing the quantities, the iconography on them, and it ended up being that we probably spent a couple $100 on components that are not even usable now because we just changed the game so much. Yeah,
so I would hold off until you feel solid, or you're getting ready to go to a convention and you just want to be able to show like a nice game, like a professional level, and have people take you seriously. That's when I think you would go for that. I think an in-between step between this and the prototype is this kit that we got. It's called, this is not sponsored, we just really enjoy this. It's called the Board Game, it's by Board Game Design Labs, which is,
Gabe Barrett.
Gabe Barrett runs it, So he runs a Facebook page where board game designers, I'll link that down below.
You should go in there too.
You should definitely join this Facebook page if you are aspiring or currently designing board game designer. People give you feedback on what you're currently working on. You can learn from other people and what they find. So it's a great resource. But what is in this?
So there's a ton of stuff. You can see a little preview of it on the back. That's worth looking at. So it's a whole bunch of cards. The biggest thing is they are small cubes, big cubes, discs, small meeples, big meeples of every player color, and we're talking between this and the upgrade pack like 8 player colors, so you have everything you need to like make a Euro, for instance. They also have a whole bunch of dry erase markers. They have dry erase player boards and like game boards in here, which is really cool. And then they have a whole bunch of generic punch outs. So that's numbered tokens, hearts, stars, lightning bolts, moons, and a score track, like a number track. Kind of everything that you could think of kind of needing. There's a bunch of that in here. With the upgrade pack, there's also gems and all that fun stuff. I've got like a cool idea I'm going through that's using gems. So it's really good. So
I kind of want to peel back the pages. So we talked about how to get a prototype. I want to kind of peel back the pages with Bark Avenue. So we're an indie design game studio. Bark Avenue was our first game. So we were creating all these prototypes to be able to send to reviewers. So when you talk about, most of the components were legit, but we did have to fudge a few things because of a few problems. And I want to share that with you so you can make the best out of your situation. Okay, first off, we're very lucky because our amazing friend Jacqueline has a 3D printer, which was a huge help because our meeples are 3D printed. So we actually used 3D printed meeples, which you can see in some of our poop. Yes, and poops. So that was a component that we really kind of lucked out on being able to do. Meeples are usually a 2D design, so if you just draw that flat, then you can get it sort of extruded and printed. That's how they do that. So, you don't need it to be wood. It doesn't have to be perfect. So that was one way that we got by. That saved us money. And Jacqueline, just so you guys know, is the solo designer of Bark Avenue. So she's awesome. But I want to talk about, this component right here, from far away,
the player boards,
looks great. They are, when you get them, if you back to Bark Avenue, they're going to be beautiful wooden cardboard pieces.
They'll be dual layered cardboard.
They'll be dual layered. But what we used for the reviewers prototype, because they were so expensive to make on Game Crafter.
We're talking like $8 per board.
Really expensive, and we ordered at least 10 review copies, so that cost really adds up. We made these ourselves, thanks to our lovely friend Ross, who taught us how. This is actually...
Let me get it.
This is like styrofoam cardboard, would you say?
It's the Elmer's like cardboard presentation, or foam present. Oh, here it is. Foam presentation board. This is Staples brand, not even the Elmer's brand.
Yeah. So then we printed out what this looked like, and then we spray glued.
We just glued them
in our
all
apartment
to this.
and in Jonathan's backyard. We spray glued these. So get creative on what you need to spend your money on and what you don't need to spend your money on, or spend less of. Because I don't want to make it sound like you aren't going to spend money. Making a board game is very costly. Yeah. I would just say that. But there are smart ways and creative ways we don't have to waste money to do it. And this is where one of those hacks we did.
Yeah.
And then this wasn't our plan. It did end up saving us money. And only the reviewers know this, so I'm going to reveal this to you guys. This wasn't our plan. This Bark Avenue box that most of the reviewers got is actually, you want to show them?
Dun, 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 dun.
It's Battleship! Ta-da! Surprise! Not Battleship inside. So here's a design story, and this is a very, very delicately constructed.
You can see it. Well, maybe you can see it.
So we're revealing back the curtains. It was made out of Battleship, but this was because Game Crafter, no fault of their own, when we ordered this prototype months ago, they said the boxes were going to be available, but then due to COVID shortages, when it was time for us to be printed, they were no longer available. We had a Kickstarter date already set. These copies need to go to reviewers. So Jonathan, I, and several members of his family were very gracious. We stayed up all night making these games, and Jonathan ordered 10 copies of Battleship off of Amazon because it was the correct size and the cheapest game we could get.
Also, what's nice is because Battleship has its own case, we didn't waste the game either, because once it's out of the box, you don't really need the box anymore. So,
So we have lots of copies of Battleship if anyone wants one. Just putting it out there. But so we thought this, oh my gosh, this was like a nightmare. But it's like, instead of like just giving up and throwing in the towel,
People told us to. People told us to give up.
Yeah,
they told us to push our dates.
People were like, push your dates, blah blah blah. And I was like, no, we're gonna make this work. And we did. And it ended up not being that big a deal, and we made it work. So that's kind of the evolution that we went through to create Bark Avenue, and we're even learning more as we're creating other games in the background.
Play your game. Stop talking about it and play it, because the more you play it, the quicker you're going to iterate and realize, oh, that doesn't really work, and you're going to get past the stage where you really understand what components your game needs a lot faster. So you have to play. Don't just talk about it.
All right, and that was Design Diary 1. If you guys like this video, make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can know whenever we put out a new video. And we'll see you next time. Happy playing!